Primarily, I try to find something to do. Like lately, it's been this chromatic scale in a couple different positions. I don't know. Trying to find like a scale to actually practice gets really redundant. It's a discipline thing. It's better if I start like with a lick or something that I've been trying to work on or something like that. Um, there's a lick that I've been doing in Do It for the Kids at the End, which I was practicing the other day, which is I don't know what they call this, but it's sort of that sort of Indian kind of thing. And I do, it's just an exercise, really, and it's something I made up just to again keep myself busy. 'Cause I noticed I couldn't do that a couple days ago. I just play. Just if I just sit down with a guitar and just do whatever for, a half an hour or an hour, whatever. That's pretty much that should do it for me. Right. I try and just sit and see. Maybe there might be a riff I'm working on, so then that gives me something to do. Like that one lick that I was talking about was something I started to do one night and I didn't finish it because wasn't really sure what it was. So I thought, well, let's expand on that and see what that is. And so that just give yourself something set to work on. If you're just playing a scale, it becomes pretty mind-numbing, and you're not really doing anything. You're just sort of like you go, oh, I can play it at high speed, I can do it at slow speed, I can work up from slow speed to fast. It just somehow you get distracted doing that because it's not really engaging you. Every kid has a book of scales somewhere around, and you sit there and you play those, and if you don't apply them to some sort of music, there's no use for them. And once you start to play something like the music, you start to take off and you forget about the scale. And then also it helps to spend 2 minutes standing up before you go out there, because sitting down and standing up are two different things.
That's I can notice you use your pinky a lot. Is that something you've worked on?
No, that's natural. I try actually not to use it sometimes because different fingers have different ways of expressing themselves. So like sometimes, like if I'm doing this lick, right? But if you use this finger, your middle finger, it's just got a different kind of a feel to it. So like if you go, that's one thing that sometimes, depending on what lick I'm doing, I'll switch my fingers around. But the pinky is just really natural for any kind of a stretch. It's finger strength and also intonation. There's a certain kind of different way that you approach saying bending a note. Like sometimes I overbend, and it's easy to overbend with this finger, but you can overbend too much, whereas it's more controlled if you use your middle finger. And of course, there's always using your first finger to bend backwards. Licks are, and you could go. But something nice about the kind of pull when you don't have as much strength, that you really have to pull that string, and somehow you can hear that in the sound that it makes. Every kid has a book of scales somewhere around, and you sit there and you play those, and if you don't apply them to some sort of music, there's no use for them. And once you start to play something like the music, you start to take off and you forget about the scale. I know a lot of guitar players that are amazing with scales. I always talk about Steve. He's like my sort of technical guitar mentor. He always is telling me all these different things that you can do, but I usually find a hard time applying them. You know, it's a lot of just weird tricks that you can do, you know, starting on different notes, putting a different scale and different key, this and that and the other. And I can't play with feel or any kind of emotion and be able to sort of mix those two. So I just sort of make it up as I go along. But the main thing that I do go for is obviously the rock sound. So that really is the simplest scale, and then just putting different notes in that. I stick with as many different rock positions as I can get, and what changes them is, like, okay, say we're playing in C, right? And we're playing, 1-4-5 progression. Then you've got two different sort of very standard scales for it, and they have that scale all the way up the neck, right? And then the other one is the sort of, which is sort of an A, really. But anyway, and those are two, and then you just start breaking up, like, so you bring a third into it? No, not a third, a seventh into it. So there's that, and then there's these passing tones. So here's the major scale, or however you want to. You know what I mean, right? And then so in that position, you can go. Or stuff like that. And then when it gets into minor stuff, say it's in the same key, then you bring in all the flat third. And depending on the song, if it's got an F major in it, or sometimes it just sounds cool, where you bring in the sixth, right? Which in a minor note sounds pretty weird. But if you're doing a really sort of real minor stuff, then you have the flat sixth.